Is it time for the Warriors to move on from Draymond Green? At this point, I'm sure most of you have already seen that clip going around of Draymond punching Jordan Poole in the face, and that has sparked a debate on whether or not the Warriors should move on from Draymond Green. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports, I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Draymond Green has been a very interesting player basically ever since he was drafted. There's definitely a bunch of different abilities that he has that's perceived to be very valuable to NBA teams. Specifically talking about his defense, his passing and playmaking ability, his leadership qualities, which is kind of ironic based upon the title of this video, but nonetheless, he's definitely shown a nice ability to be a leader in the locker room, in the past at least. But at the same time, while there are a bunch of different abilities that Draymond does at a pretty high level, there are at the same time a bunch of abilities that Draymond lacks, and I'm specifically talking about his offensive abilities. Now offensively, Draymond definitely has the ability to do certain things. He has the ability to hit a 3-point jump shot, he has the ability to hit a mid-range jump shot, he has the ability to drive all the way to the basket, but he just doesn't do it at a high level whatsoever. And specifically talking about his jump shot shooting, and especially his 3-point jump shot shooting, he does it at a pretty low level. And although he definitely has a nice ability to pass and play make, especially for his size, the lack of scoring ability that he does have really does hurt him, but also the rest of his teammates as well, because it kind of just allows the defense to play a 5-on-4 out there basically every time the Warriors are on offense. Now another negative that comes along with Draymond Green that tends to come up especially in the playoffs is his temper. It seems like basically every single season, especially in the playoffs, he's dealing with a possible suspension due to the amount of technical fouls that he got during that season. And although Draymond has said he's trying to fix that issue, it's pretty clear that's just who he is, and that's just what's going to happen at the end of the day. So basically what I'm trying to say is, while there are a bunch of different things that teams may like about Draymond, there are at the same time an equal amount of things that teams wouldn't like about him, just making him for a very interesting player overall. But now the question of this video is, do I think the Warriors should move on from Draymond Green? Now I think it's a very interesting situation, and I don't think it comes down to one point or the other. I think you have to look at a bunch of different things and then decide what's best for your organization. So the first thing that I would look at is, how is Draymond perceived in the locker room after this altercation? If most if not all of the players in the locker room still saw Draymond favorably, then I think it's a lot easier to keep him on the roster. But if some and even most of the players saw Draymond in a negative light after this incident, then I think it's very difficult to keep Draymond on this roster. And honestly, even if 1 or 2 or even 3 players really saw Draymond in a very negative light, I still think at that point it would be difficult to keep Draymond on the team, unless you were to trade away all those other guys that didn't like Draymond. Now the next factor on whether or not I think the Warriors should trade away Draymond Green is, how does the Warriors front office perceive him? And what I mean by this is, there could have potentially been times in the past where the Warriors front office thought about trading away Draymond Green, but they didn't necessarily do so due to the fact that it was perceived that his teammates really liked him, and they didn't want to mess up the chemistry. Now of course there's never been any reports on this is complete speculation, but basically what I'm trying to say is, if they ever wanted to trade away Draymond in the past, this could potentially be the best excuse the Warriors could have to move on from Draymond. But at the same time, if they see Draymond as a very valuable player, then of course this point doesn't apply. Now the next factor in this is, how does Jordan Poole feel about Draymond? Now typically you wouldn't make decisions based upon one specific player's opinions, but when you consider what actually happened and the fact that that's not necessarily something that happens all the time, and when you also consider how good Jordan Poole is, the talent level that he does possess, and how young he is, then I think it makes a lot more sense to see how Jordan Poole does feel about this. Because if it got to the point where Jordan goes to the Warriors front office and says, either you're going to trade away Draymond Green or you're going to trade away me, I feel like the choice is pretty clear on what the Warriors should do. They should trade away Draymond. But if it's at the point where Jordan isn't necessarily all that upset with Draymond, maybe he got upset in the moment, but he got over it as time did progress, progress, then I think it's a lot easier to keep Draymond on the roster. And I also think, piggybacking to the other point, if Jordan Poole is okay with Draymond, I think a lot of other players on the team would also be okay with Draymond at that point. Now, another factor traditionally could be that player's fit with a team, but I don't necessarily think it applies to Draymond due to the fact that Draymond has been on the Warriors for a very long time now, and he's also won multiple championships with Golden State while he was a starter, so I don't necessarily think there's a question on how well he fits with the Warriors. But now, what's my opinion on this? Do I think the Warriors should move on from Draymond Green, or do I think they should keep him? Well, in my opinion, I think if it comes down to the point that Jordan Poole goes to the front office and tells them straight up that either you're going to trade me or you're going to trade Draymond, then I think at that point you must trade away Draymond Green. And even if that didn't happen, but there was some tension with Jordan Poole and Draymond, like obviously there would be, or even some tension with Draymond and some other players on the team, I feel like you don't necessarily have to trade Draymond Green. It's not a requirement, but at the same time, I do think it would probably make the most sense to move on from Draymond at that point. Now, if everything's completely fine once Draymond does come back, he isn't with the team currently, but once he does come back, if he does come back, if everything's completely fine at that point, nobody has a problem with Draymond, and they just agree that everybody wants to win and they're going to get along, for the most part at least on the court, I think at that point you could keep Draymond and you definitely wouldn't have all that many effects from it, or really any effects whatsoever. But I just don't know how realistic that is. When someone punches you in the face in practice, you're probably not going to be all that good with that player for at least a decent amount of time, at the bare minimum. So if it were up to me, I would probably just say trade away Draymond Green. I don't think it's worth the chemistry issues to keep Draymond on the team. He doesn't necessarily provide all that much. Now, obviously, I don't want to minimize what he's able to do on the court and what he's meant to the Warriors through their championship victories, but at the end of the day, if it's him or Jordan Poole, clearly Jordan's a more talented player, and I feel like you need to pick him over Draymond. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. What do I think the Warriors are actually going to do? Well, at this point, I feel like it's difficult to tell what they're actually going to do, but one thing that I could see happening is the Warriors are probably just going to let this play out a little bit, see what happens. Draymond is going to be away from the team for a little bit, just let it play out, see if people start to forget about the situation, and then maybe allow Draymond to come back and see what happens from there. And if things still aren't good, then I could see them trading him away. But if he comes back and everything seems normal, there doesn't appear to be issues between him and Jordan Poole or him and other players, then I could honestly see them keeping Draymond Green. Now, one thing I will say is if the Warriors get a good trade package for Draymond, I could easily see them moving him away, but I just don't think that's that realistic. And that's basically my take on the whole Draymond Green situation. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Warriors should move on from Draymond, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy it, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.